I'd be even more impressed, Chad, if you were on a boat or something. That would be priceless.
Thought about it, but my Wi-Fi doesn't reach that far.
That kayak would be better.
Yeah, I could take my phone and bend on my kayak.
You can even hotspot off your phone.
Yeah, I know. I don't even need the hotspot. I just use my phone.
Hey, Chad, please tell your wife she's been doing an awesome job with the distant learning there. Johanna's been digging it, and I've been watching a little bit. It's pretty awesome.
Will do.
Okay, we are up and running, and I'm not hearing any feedback from the YouTube. Well, maybe I am. I think we're good to go. So I will turn it over to Corinne. I don't know if you want me to put the agenda up or.
That might be nice to help along.
Your sound is terrible, just so you know.
Mine is
Yes,
okay.
maybe try video off.
Yeah, but then I'll try the call in.
Can everyone see the agenda up on the screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Is it working yet, Corinne?
Yep, I can see it.
Oh, now I can hear you better.
Okay. It's really in and out tonight, I think, for everybody. So
Yeah.
we'll try it. Okay. I guess we'll start the working session, 6:06 p.m. First on the agenda is the Citizens Forum. Julie Mulberg, Lake of the Woods Chamber of Commerce President, request to use school parking lot for fireworks display. Is she present, Jeff?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm here.
Coming in loud and clear. You're good.
I'm good.
You're good. Go ahead.
Okay. So on behalf of the Lake of the Woods Chamber, we were just going to ask a few questions to see what it would take to use the school facilities for the 4th of July fireworks in case we can't use the hill at that time. Right now, it sounds like maybe the hill might not be available because of too many people in one area. And so we need just a backup plan just in case so that we can light the fireworks for the 4th.
All right. Well, can I ask an obvious question?
Sure.
So if you're doing it at the school, what's different than at the hill? Or is the thought having people sit in their cars at the parking lot?
Well, at the school, we have the whole parking lot. We have Highway 1, you got number 35. They could park in the, Steve Johnson said there's parking beyond there, you know, from the ball field parking lots. And And we'd have more room for parking, and also they would shoot the fireworks straight up instead of like over the bay. So more people from further distances can see it. And that would mean that people would be staying in their cars.
So people would they be still shot off from the same location down by Peace Park or someplace different?
No, we were hoping to maybe shoot them off over by the school. And so it sounds like we need permits and insurance. Put you out on a rider for insurance, and I don't know what else we need to do to have it take place out there, but basically what we're doing is we're just looking for a backup plan in case we can't shoot them off on the hill.
And I guess the second part is the detritus or the stuff that ends up, on the ground after that. I assuming that there's just not much, but is that an issue? Is that something that we can,
Well, I would definitely put together a cleanup crew. Is that what you're talking about, Tim?
Right. I don't know what comes down. I mean, I've never really noticed it at the bay, but I assume something comes down somewhere, and usually it would go in the river maybe or something.
Yeah. Well, some of the people that are across the bay get some of the rubbish in their yards and stuff. So we would definitely make sure we had a cleanup crew for the if it happened out there.
Any, a couple obvious, Jeff Burcham here, Julie. I know there'd be some concerns with stuff landing on the roof. I mean, that's a big square area of the roof of the school there. Just that building alone, that would be a concern I think we'd all have.
Right.
Boyd Johnson here. I guess rather than the parking lot, I'd say consider, and I'll give the nod to Seth here, but possibly in that drive parking area, either going to the softball fields or to the baseball fields. Baseball fields would make the most sense because then you could use the parking lot for parking.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't explain myself very well, but that was my intention, was to use the parking for the cars and then shoot the fireworks in a different location close to the area.
So at that area there, will we cordon off the driveway going to the baseball fields? Because that's a very limited parking spot there. Could we cordon that off, make sure everybody stays on the tar or outside of there?
Yeah, definitely. We could just let the pyrotechnics in that area. And like I said, we're hoping to still shoot them off the hill. I was at the city council meeting this morning or this afternoon, and our main goal is to get them on the hill. It just depends upon that, how many people we can have in one area, how far that goes into this COVID jumble mumble that we have going on, and hopefully by that time we can have more people in one area, so they can't limit us to like only having 200 people sitting on that hill, since it's city owned, so that maybe we can, and then we would just use the school as a backup. And we would probably know a couple weeks before the 4th if that was going to happen or not.
Boyd here again. I guess for the school board, sounds like, I mean, you could make anything feasible. So I guess it boils down to us whether or not we'd be willing to entertain the idea or not,
Right.
based on whatever requirements. So kind of off what you've said, at this point, I'm not opposed to it. Let's put it that way.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Hmm.
How about anyone else?
Julie, how much of a concern, I've been down to the fireworks there, alcohol is an issue. I mean, that's something that we would have to consider, because I'm thinking, we can do the best job, but people are going to be bringing in coolers, and alcohol would be an issue that we have to deal with.
Right. I guess I would have to go talk to Gary Fish and see what his input would be. If we can regulate the not have people bring their coolers in. If they don't like it, they could go park on a gravel road, you know, I mean, I have a feeling that the people that will be coming into the school parking lot are going to be the ones that aren't drinking because they already know it's a school parking lot and there's going to be law enforcement there. So hopefully they'd be smart enough not to do that. And hopefully just make it a nice family night since we're not having a fourth, to at least have something to look forward to for that night.
Boyd here
Yeah,
again. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we're talking about everybody staying in their cars, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm on the same side Boyd is, Julie. I'm glad you're putting the effort in and doing it and trying to dot the i's and cross the t's. So, figure the plan out. Don't, try not to burn the place down type thing. That's what we're all thinking. And
Right.
I, the board member would say, great, that's a good backup plan from here.
okay.
I guess
Well, I appreciate it. And,
once, I guess I would recommend once you have kind of a set plan and you know where the pyrotechnics will be fired off, hopefully some kind of estimate on the number of vehicles. I think we should probably consult with our insurance carrier, Casey Holland, and make sure that our liability coverage is there. Because there's lots of things that could happen with an event like that. So
right, yeah,
I think once we have some more details, I think that would be my recommendation before the board
okay,
on board, just to make sure that our liability is covered.
sure.
Jeff or Seth, any opposition, any concerns that would
No,
say no right now, or are you looking at developing the plan?
as of right now, for what we talked about, I really don't see an issue right now. One of the biggest things is like Jeff brought up about alcohol coming onto the school property. How do we regulate that? The cleanup afterwards, particles falling on the roof. Those are the only concerns that I really have.
Well, I think if we get it away from the building, like if it's over by the ball field, that should eliminate most of that problem, depending upon which way the wind's going, but the guys can
Correct.
always adjust for that.
Yeah.
All right.
And it'll determine what kind of guidelines we have as far as social distancing requirements and stuff. I'm not sure what that will be in July. That's kind of
Right,
Yeah, if it's something we can get in compliance with, I think we can make something work as a backup plan. Absolutely.
okay,
No doubt, Julie. I mean, you're full circle with almost people being able to see it from, like you said, County Road 35, that little gravel road to the east. It does logistically, it makes pretty good sense. We just got a few issues there, but it does sound pretty good if it should work.
it was one of the most open areas we could come up with parking, so. I appreciate you guys listening to me tonight, and I will get a hold of Gary Fish and talk about stuff with him. And hopefully we can get together again soon and make this happen.
Anything you come up with Gary, Julie, just
Yeah.
go to the school and keep Jeff or myself updated.
Sure, you betcha.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you guys. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Julie.
Yep,
you.
thanks. Bye-bye.
All right, Jeff, just a question on that. Do we need to take any board action tonight, or would this be something that could wait till the June meeting? Or is there any board action?
Yeah, I would recommend once we know the specifics and we can run it by our legal counsel and insurance provider. So you have some information as far as that goes. I would prefer to have board give direction rather than I just give approval for it.
Okay,
So yeah, I think we should probably go through the proper channels with something like this.
okay, so likely see it at the next meeting then.
Yeah.
But then we could go, Jeff just went and did it all on his own. Just in
I
case
know.
school does burn down. Yeah, Jeff did it.
And Laura just brought up a good point with having the fireworks over at the school right there. What are some of the precautions of having the Humane Society so close? A lot of them dogs and animals and stuff are really skittish to loud noises and stuff. That's something that we might have to talk to Julie to have in consideration.
Good point.
Society now.
It's possible, but you're looking at almost, you're looking at 1.5 miles away. So it's probably about equidistance to the town site.
Yeah, possible. It's a little more open though, so it might carry a little quicker. But that's just something that, to keep in mind.
Just to notify them.
Well, hopefully they can have it in the traditional place by then.
Right. Okay, ready to move on? So we can move on to reports. For board committees, we have the Finance Committee. And under that is the budget report from Crystal Olson.
I just sent the budget report to the board members that are not on the committee. There isn't anything really out of the ordinary. We do have the new 5-cast model that I sent out. So when you guys take a look at that, if you have any questions, you can let me know. We will be doing the revised FY20 budget tonight too, but I see I'm down farther for that discussion. So that's all I have for that part.
Okay. All right, anything else from anybody else on the Finance Committee? Otherwise, we can move on to the Superintendent / Elementary Principal, Jeff Nelson.
Okay. I'm sorry, I had intended to have Crystal just do the revised budget discussion with the Finance Committee report. Just makes sense, but you just want to jump in and do that right away? Are you okay, Board Chair, if I change the order since she's up and talking?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so basically tonight I am presenting a revised budget for the current year. Our deficit is basically staying the same around that 50,000 that we had originally budgeted for. The only thing that's really updated is revenues increased some and expenditures increased some. I did include that with the board write-up as far as where those increases came from. Did you guys have any questions as far as after reading that and looking it over?
Is the fact that the expenses and the revenues came up that coincidentally, is that just a random act of God, or is it just the way things parallel generally in the finance world?
No, I guess it just got kind of lucky that that's how it happened. As far as they increased enough to kind of basically keep our deficit the same. That just was a coincidence that it happened that way.
It doesn't always turn out that your cost of
No,
sales.
it doesn't always act or work that nicely, but this time it did.
Crystal, you missed an opportunity. You should have said, no, it's my masterful
Yes,
manipulation
I
of the
should've.
data and the money.
It's just that
kept the budget
perfect
in
all the
balance.
time. But no, they just happened to increase at the same level. So we're still looking at the same deficit for this year. But like we had discussed in the Finance Committee too, we don't know some of the other uncertainties as far as there's areas in like food service when the staff wasn't truly working, we need to actually code those hours to the general fund. But then some of our, like our paras and our bus drivers who were actually delivering meals, we can code those expenditures to food service then. So they kind of are going to balance themselves out. We just don't know for sure. Hope more guidance. And we did discuss as far as providing food this summer and daycare. And from my understanding, that's up to the school district. And I think we're steering away from that because there's not really need for it, or interest, I should say, for it. So yeah, I don't know. Do you have any other questions? As far as the revised budget goes for tonight?
So we'll be looking at possible some reserve fund balance transfers because of the COVID-19. But we're gonna wait and see kind of where things fall out. So my goal would be to try to keep our fund unreserved fund balance stable and not reduce that by 50,000, but.
Jeff, this is Corinne. Are there any updates on the, I think at the last meeting, we talked about property taxes coming in and the delay in those payments, and then the possibility of a short-term loan. Is there any more information on that?
Yes. Do you want me to cover it, or Crystal, you want to talk about it?
I did talk to the county, and it sounds like our May payment is probably going to be very similar to what we have received in the past. I don't think we're gonna have a shortfall for May, but we will need to look ahead to our October and November payment, just if there's that possibility that it's not gonna be the full amount. We will need to look into that still further. But as of right now for May, we should be fine.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else then from the Finance Committee? If not, I think then we can move on to Jeff.
Okay. I'm gonna pull up my report that went out with the, I think I'm going to. Maybe it's in here already. Okay. All right, the enrollment report, we're still at 494 for the current year. So it actually shows our district up 4 students since September. But that can be deceiving because there's about 10 students that there was a change due to how we identify and count our early childhood special education students. So technically, without that, we'd actually be down 4 students. And then the table I put together, and this is just off our enrollment, kind of how the class sizes will be going through the years. As we've projected, we're going to be down 12 students in the high school and 9 in the elementary. And that's why we're recommending about $200,000 in budget reductions. And then it will be fairly stable. Actually, in the high school, will be up 5 the following year in 21-22. But we'll be down 4 in the elementary. So I think compared to this year, we'll be down about 20 students compared to the base year of 230. The following year is when some of these smaller classes will be coming through. So that's going to be a bigger hit because we'll be graduating 46 in 2022 and bringing in a small class of 24 into the high school. And then the same thing down here with the elementary. We'll be down 14. So 2023, 2024 year, that's out there. I'm not real confident in those numbers, but if we just look at the flat numbers without any increases or anything like that, we could be down quite a few kids in the following years. But I really look through the next 3 years with some decline, and that's why I'm recommending those budget cuts. And they're basically the same ones I presented last month. Nothing's changed with that. My recommendation still stays the same as far as that goes. Any questions on that? So this is something that at our June board meeting, when you approve that budget, that proposed budget, these budget cuts will be within that proposed budget. And I know later, Mr. Nowak will talk about, I know there's been some concerns with the English, college English and Apex or the Spanish classes. I think I've addressed that in the board write-up, but he'll talk about that. We actually have a guest speaker who can talk about that Apex program. I talked about in my notes here with kindergarten, the plan is I don't have a crystal ball. We have 5 kids move in, we're at 26. That's probably too big for one kindergarten teacher. The first step would be to get an aide put in that class. So that's my recommendation for our budget for next year. And that's not including any discussion on high school principal. I think that will be coming up in the future. But I think long-term, I think these reductions, I would still, regardless of what we do with the high school principal, these are my recommendation moving forward for long-term planning.
Can I ask a question, Jeff?
Yep.
So the recommendations, we're all nodding our head on them. Is this the appropriate moment to discuss, alternatives? And I understand you're trying to put a budget together for, eventual approval by us. In terms of the Spanish and English position, which we've just lost, you say Brian's going to address that. Are we looking at acknowledging your plan here at the moment, or are we looking for that potentially, and maybe it's a rare animal, but that perfect fit to refit into a Spanish English position if it appears?
No, I'm recommending that we eliminate those positions and offer them through online and through Apex. So I would not recommend trying to find the magical person that has those licensures to fit. I think long term, I think the best option for a school our size is to offer the foreign language through the Apex. There's a number of reasons, and Brian will go over that later, why that's an advantage for our district and our students. And the same thing with the college and the English class. I think there's offerings through online college in the high school for those level classes. So students have those options. They still have a few options within our school system. But just looking, we're not in a growing area at all right now, and I'd be happy if we can sustain just kind of our numbers where they're at. So I just think long-term, when you look at schools our size, a lot of them are offering the online options because it's very hard for districts our size to get the staffing with the right licensure. Plus there's added cost when you have those staff members. So I think irregardless of anything, that's my recommendation moving forward, is just not to replace that position and just start offering it through different means.
Okay, and as long as I'm still unmuted here, I'm looking at it. I think in general, we agree on the thought that teacher in the classroom is best option, understanding that maybe or maybe not, we can't budget that. I'm willing to accept that, but I think I'd feel comfortable at least knowing that I had made a choice. You know what I mean? If they're actually, once again, I'd like to just do the due diligence and say, okay, we didn't even find that choice available to us, as opposed to at least not pursuing it. Because I am hearing a lot from people who want, for instance, in Spanish specifically, would like a human, or excuse my, that's not right, but would like an in-person teacher. So I think that they would like to know, so that Tim can say, you know what, we just can't afford that person, as opposed to, and I've heard that suggestion elsewhere. Can you change languages or whatever to find somebody who fits that a little better? But should maybe we be putting an ad out anyway for a month and see if we don't get any kind of response?
Well, that's up to the board if they want to direct me, but then my response would be, where do you want me, where else should I take those other cuts?
Yeah, it's still a budget matter. I mean, whether you put it
know-
out or anything, it's still comes down to the monetary amount, right?
That's how I look at it. I mean, if you know, that 35 to 40,000, and that can vary depending on the number of kids that sign up. I believe Apex is roughly $300 per kid per semester. So we can budget that. We can take the number of kids that are taking it and we can budget for that. And I think we've seen over the years that there's a lot of kids, not necessarily always your high flyers, that do well with the Apex foreign language. Some kids don't, but some kids failed the Spanish class when there was a teacher in front of them. You know, so I think in this day and age, especially where we're at now, providing students some opportunities to do the online classes is helping prepare them for their future. And I would
Plus,
say
this opens up just about any language, right?
yes, that's the beauty of it. We have kids that can take French, they can take Latin, so forth. And I don't know, maybe we should just, since we're on it, do you want to just jump in, Brian, and do your thing? And I see you have Steve on. But I think if you're going to ask me to advertise to try to fill a licensure with Spanish and college level English, that we look at where else should we make those reductions.
Well, I guess that's the gist of my argument is just because Spanish happens to be stepping into our headlights right now, it's taking the first hit. You know, have we looked elsewhere to make those budget cuts, not at the sacrifice of a in-person foreign language situation? You know, and I just want to be able to say, hey, we've at least done that, made that effort to see what how that can be accommodated, as opposed to saying, well, it's a convenience right now, it's in front of us, let's do with that and eliminate it.
It's certainly not a convenience. If I had my druthers, we would have that position. But you have to look at all of the cuts that I'm proposing. We're reducing the kindergarten section. We're consolidating another bus route. We removed our ODC contract and that employee. And we're still looking for another 10 or 20,000. So yeah, I'm looking for places to cut, but we haven't been overly staffed in general. I'm not sure what office or department we could reduce more. I've asked staff to reduce or be frozen with their budgets and their orders. And we've kicked down the road, replacing a reading curriculum in the elementary for the near future. So I think we've kind of provided kind of a broad spectrum of cuts that I think are not wonderful, but they're livable. And I think we're still offering programming for kids. We're not cutting any program. We're not taking any services away, but we're saving some money because that's what we need to do right now with our budget.
I agree with Tim on this one. I don't think it's going to cost us anything to look at that. I've also been contacted by some people that on the same thing that Tim was talking about, having a real person in there. You know, yes, I understand what you're saying, Jeff, completely. But I don't think it's going to hurt us to throw it out there for a month and to look. I mean, that's my thought on this. And I have been contacted on it and had discussion with people that they want.
So you want me to add that position back into the budget?
I think I would like to see what cog we could put in there if we have an applicant that would possibly fit into that cog there someplace. I don't think we're ready to put it into a budget yet, but I think that like Tim talked about, maybe there is a person. I'd feel more comfortable if giving it a try anyway and trying to deal with it.
You guys hoping to get a discounted Spanish teacher or some? I mean, I guess what are you guys looking for by advertising? Because I mean, I assume Jeff and Crystal have run the budget analysis. They know how much a teacher is going to cost, and they know how much the Apex will cost, and therein lies the difference. I mean, so you'd either have to make it up one way or another. Is that my correct understanding, Jeff?
That's how I look at it. I mean, it's hard with some of the classes. I mean, we kind of roughly put in the savings based on preliminary numbers. Brian's right in the middle of doing course registration. And once that's done, he'll have a better indication. I'm fine with advertising, but my question to the board is, and I don't have an answer right now, is if we hire someone, you know, now we're back to trying to come up with $35, $45, $65,000 we're going to be deficit spending if we happen to get luck out and find someone that can provide that. So I'm just asking, you know, where else do you want me to look for budget reductions? Because we can advertise, and if we find someone and hire them, we haven't solved our budget problem. So that's what I need to know is where else would you like, you know, do you want a halftime high school principal or halftime superintendent? Where are we going to make up this budget deficit? Because I don't see anything in the future that says we're going to have an influx of students that will bail us out of this. So I think we need to try to be not hack with a hatchet or something, cut with a big saw, but try to use a scalpel. And I think what I've provided with these positions is a way to do it.
Mr. Nelson?
Yep.
All right, can I take the floor for a moment?
Sure.
All right, so what I'm gonna do right now is show you or share options with you. It's not about whether you go with a 2-hour Spanish teacher and a 3-hour English teacher. Current numbers. So I just went on EdPost today, and you can go EdPost and type in Spanish. As of right now, there are 236 full-time Spanish positions opened through the state of Minnesota in EdPost, 236. Since May 1st, there's been 65 new positions that have been posted. And those are, I'm pretty much going to guess that they're anywhere between half-time and full-time positions. So we were really lucky to have Rachel HG, Mrs. HG come in and have English and Spanish. So what I'd like to do right now is just to kind of go over some, what is Apex? We've had Apex within our school district for over 10 years. We've had a variety of foreign languages. We've had Latin, Spanish, we've had French, we've had German, we've had other classes. We've had medical terminology. We've had management classes. Mrs. Sonstagard, your daughter took a couple classes from Apex Learning throughout her career. And so we've got a variety of students that have taken Apex Learning. What I'd like to do right now, we've got Steve Ebringer here, and Apex is basically located over on the West Coast, over in the state of Washington. Well, but Steve's in Brainerd, and I've been talking to Steve for the last number of years, and he's been helping us bring in classes and do different things and really work with students. And so, Steve, what I guess I'd like you to do is, you've got the floor. We've looked at interactive television. The problem with interactive television is you're still stuck in that hour, and you're stuck looking at a TV. Whereas what's really nice about Apex is that students can take that class and they can fit it in to whatever hour that they want. It's $300 per semester, $600 per year, and they can fit it in. If they have an open slot first hour, instead of taking a study hall, they can fit it in there. If fifth hour is open for them, they can fit it in there. I was the proctor this year, in which I was able to click on and open up all their different tests. Students would just come to me and say, or send me an email, say, hey, Mr. Novak, I'm ready for my test. So I'd open it up, I'd click on it, and basically their test is open for them to take it. So without further ado, and I'm going to turn it over to Steve, just to kind of give you a summary of what Apex is.
No problem. Well, thank you, everybody. Can you guys all hear me okay? Awesome. Again, thanks, Brian. Thank you, board. Mr. Nelson, I met when I was up this spring before the corona hit. So I got to visit Lake of the Woods. Many years from Brainerd, I've traveled up and fished up in Lake of the Woods several times out of Briggsy's Resort, who happened to be a Brainerd graduate. So before he sold that off. So anyway, Apex Learning. Ladies and gentlemen, I completely understand. Online learning is honestly not for every student. And I'm not here to tell you that it is. There is no perfect online solution, but I will share with you that we've been around for over 20 years. We were founded by Mr. Paul Allen, who founded Microsoft with Mr. Bill Gates. And we started out immediately as an online company. And over those 20 plus years, we've grown to be very successful. The program that we work with Lake of the Woods is our high school virtual, or our virtual high school, ALVS. And a couple things on ALVS is the fact that we have served over 2 million students over those 20 years with an online platform, just in ALVS. And so it is a recognized, accredited by Advanced Ed program. It's NCAA certified, so you can be assured that it's a very well accredited school. With the courses that we offer, they are all Minnesota standards aligned. We have hundreds of districts all across Minnesota that use Apex for any number of reasons. Many of them use ALVS for what you're going through right now. Brian and I talked a little bit. I've been in this industry for over, this is my 8th year working in the upper Midwest, and many districts of your size or even smaller look at something like this as an alternative to not only budget constraints, but also being able to offer students a rigorous standards aligned curriculum that maybe we didn't have the options before. And so that's why a lot of students and school districts will utilize ALVS. I'm going to try to share. Can you guys not at host disabled person? Okay. So Jeff, can you make me the presenter real quick, or can you do that? Awesome. I'm going to just share a couple items, and I don't want to take up a great deal of your time. I know you guys are really busy. Now, can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Just a couple benefits. Again, we're very rigorous online content that's been around a long time. Brian mentioned very flexible. Students can take an Apex course 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and do their work. So it does fit neatly into how a lot of online learners do it. However, we also offer a lot of one-to-one support. Every student, when they come into the course, is going to be assigned the Spanish teacher. So if Brian and I talked about numbers, if all 28 of these students next fall, they're all going to be assigned basically the same teacher. That's a Spanish certified, Minnesota certified Spanish teacher, and that's going to be the teacher. That teacher, and I don't remember who it is because I've talked to her once, but she's going to have office hours that the students can communicate with her on a regular basis. During the course of working with it, again, the proctoring where Brian does the test, he works with the teacher if there's an issue with a student that's falling behind. Our teachers work very diligently. In fact, we have about a 90%, 89 to 90% of kids that come into ALVS complete our courses because of the content, the way that they're delivered. One significant difference with Apex itself is we offer a lot of scaffolds and supports within the curriculum as students are working through it. One of the big things that's now been really brought to the forefront with online learning with this COVID-19 is the fact that, looking at a curriculum for online, kids still needs feedback. Usually they're getting it from the teacher, which is the unfortunate thing with distance learning. And so Apex actually is what we call an active learning platform with scaffolds and supports built in as they work through it. So if they answer a practice test, oh, go ahead. Did somebody have a question? Okay.
I'm not sure where that came from.
I'm sorry. Anyway, active learning is really about asking students to do something every 30 to 40 seconds like they would in an everyday classroom. That's how all of our curriculum, including our Spanish courses, are set up. Students actively work through it and then have instant feedback. So if they're answering a question in a practice example, if they get it wrong, there's an instant pop-up that will tell them, you got this wrong, here's why. Just as they would from a teacher that was over their shoulder in the classroom. So that's part of going back to why we have the ability or we have students that complete the work 80 or 90% of the time. So that's that. And then I was also going to pull up frequently asked questions basically of our ALVS. Again, credited through Advanced Ed, NCAA. We also offer an academic hotline. If students are working and the teacher isn't available, let's say during the office hours, they can call up to an academic hotline and actually talk to a live person for support as well. The teacher interaction, as I mentioned, our teachers do try to get to know the students and build relationships with them. The teacher also has the ability, and this is something I hadn't mentioned to Brian, but student interaction. The teacher is going to assign work groups that the students then will be able to communicate with each other through discussion boards, which actually makes it even more interactive with the students along with a typical classroom setting. And then basically the 24 hours a day, 7 days a week is very important for the ability for students to just work at their own pace, move through it and go from there. So I'll leave you with a video, just a real quick 2-minute video that will kind of touch on what Apex or how it works, if that's okay.
What is it like to take an online course with Apex Learning Virtual School? In this short video, we'll show you what to expect after enrolling in one of our courses. Our online courses are flexible. Your student has total control over when and where they learn. They will have 24/7 access to their online course and no required meeting times. Plus, your student can start a course anytime during the year and take up to 18 weeks to finish each semester. Your student will be doing more than reading and taking quizzes in our easy-to-navigate online courses. A variety of interactive activities engage your student and address multiple learning styles. Our courses meet your student where they are in their learning and give them the support they need to be successful. Study guides help your student improve their study habits. Reading supports, the option to have on-screen text read aloud, and translation options help your students strengthen their reading skills. Plus, keyword definitions and explanation of concepts in study activities help your student address and close learning gaps. It's easy for your student to use our messaging system to reach out to their teacher with questions or submit teacher-graded assignments. Our teachers help your student learn, grow, and improve by including personalized and detailed feedback on graded assignments. If your student gets stuck while working on their online course, they can chat with one of our online tutors to get help in real time. Your student decides how fast they work through their course. You and your student can see how they are doing using weekly progress reports and the student dashboard. We provide a course pacing guide to help your student complete their course in time. Your student's grade is based on their performance on a variety of computer-scored and teacher-scored assessments. After completing the course, you can order a secure transcript to be sent to your student's school of record. Call us for more information or enroll online today.
So in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, we can offer the support that you guys need. We've been doing this for a long time. We've been very successful with a lot of programs all across the state and all across the upper Midwest. So it is a very viable option. In fact, a lot of districts of your size have started moving toward offering courses like this to pick up some additional students from the surrounding areas because they're your FTE dollars. You're just paying for basically the teacher on our end to help support you, but they are your students. You're just using our teacher's PIN number as an extension of Lake of the Woods. So we can help you be successful and offer that ability for you guys to navigate and utilize it in a lot of different ways. So if you have any questions, please, now's the time. I'm available.
Tim Lyon here. Steve, thanks for that. Your last point, which I just sort of tickled me, you have the ability to, we have a decent amount of homeschooling going on in Lake of the Woods County.
Sure.
We could enlist some of those kids if they were, over in Roosevelt, they could pursue a Spanish education through our Apex Learning.
Absolutely. You could actually even offer any of the courses. We have a full catalog. A student in Minnesota could take all of their courses through Apex Virtual High School and graduate with a degree. You could offer to any homeschooler in your area the ability to be a Lake of the Woods student and just be a virtual student and claim that student, claim the FTE dollars that go along with it. You're just reporting that that student got the accredited schoolwork and it was done through an extension, things like that you can do. So yes.
And just to dovetail on that, does that extend across an international boundary, that ability? I mean, the Canadians.
No, that gets a little trickier. I actually had a school working in the Michigan, Upper Peninsula, Michigan, that was doing some work with some hockey players, and that requires a whole nother level of authorization. So I would not recommend getting involved in that because I tried very diligently a couple years ago to do that, and it was a struggle. There's a lot of different certifications and different things that you guys need to in order to do that it's not, honestly, it's really not worth doing.
Okay.
Is that including, I mean, you're talking for kids that are outside, they might be Rainy River, Canada residents, but attending school at Lake of the Woods School, that's okay? You're talking about going beyond.
I'm talking about
that.
Canadian residents taking and doing a high school, getting a high school degree or graduate, it's very difficult when you have a Canadian resident that's trying to take US education courses and things like that.
You would have to pay tuition for the district, is it basically?
Yeah, they have to do a lot of different things. I also was working with a program near Detroit that was run by the former goaltender for the Detroit Red Wings. He had started a private charter school and had several Canadian members on their team. And we were working back and forth with the US government, the Canadian government, and it became a logistic nightmare for us on our end, trying to get the proper documentation and all the pieces that were required to do a Canadian resident and have them educated in the United States. It was very difficult. So again, Robin, I and Tim, I would, me personally, this is my recommendation. I would tend to stay away from those. But homeschoolers, Tim, is a great example of being able to just kind of pluck some dollars, FTE dollars, from your area to be able to offer not only Spanish, but even AP courses. Again, we started out 23 years ago now as an advanced placement company, and we still are very, very well versed in AP courses, college level content. We have AP course teachers available, and a lot of homeschoolers do take advantage of AP courses around the upper Midwest. So it's a very viable option.
Brian, you mentioned my daughter Jordan, and I did talk to her about the Apex classes that she took. She took a few that weren't all actually Apex. She took a couple of other options too, but she said she would recommend them, but that they probably work better for the more self-motivated student, which I would think that you would probably agree that probably fits Jordan pretty well. So I don't know that they're for everybody, but I think that maybe Steve, you had mentioned that. So
yeah, since I've been in this space, my wife is a school teacher here in Walker, Minnesota. I live just north of Brainerd now, but I was born and raised in Brainerd, and since I've been in this industry, I really learned online learning is not for every student. We do not promise that this is going to excite or motivate students. If you don't have a motivated student, they're not going to probably do well. But that goes for the same thing that goes when a student comes into the classroom. My wife and I talk all the time about some of her students in her elementary classroom. She can pick them out basically on day one on the kids that are going to struggle just from their motivation, from sitting in the, how they come into the classroom and things like that. It's not a be all end all, but going back to our active learning, this is my second online company that I've worked for. This is by far the most active learning platform that I've ever seen in the industry. We ask students to do something every 30 to 40 seconds to engage them in the learning. It is really the only company that does that. That's a big component to why we're successful, why Apex over 23 years. We work with 8 of the 9 largest districts across the country. Chicago Public Schools happens to be, I cover the state of Illinois. They've had the highest grad rate they've ever had over the last 9 years using Apex because of the engagement that their students are seeing versus what they had before. Now, when I say that we work with 8 of the 9 largest districts, I always tell people, if we work well in those districts, we're going to work really well in a Lake of the Woods because you know your students even better than a large district does. Your teachers know your students, your administrators. You guys know your students. And you're right, Robin, there are going to be some kids that aren't going to be successful. And I won't promise that this will help, but it is a good, or to me, a better option than a lot of programs out there.
Okay, I think we're approaching 7 o'clock. We should probably move on. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, Brian can certainly pass them on. I thank you for the opportunity and wish you guys all the best of luck. Take care.
So I'll finish up my report real quick. It's in the write-up. I put some information on our Head Start school readiness mixed delivery system that we've been working on. So all of our 3 and 4-year-olds will have consistent curriculum and number of days of service. You can read through that. I also included a flyer that went out to parents as well. So let me know if you have any questions on that. Also, some reminders for meetings. No school on the 25th. Last day for students is the 28th. And we have teacher in-service day and graduation plan for the 29th. Graduation at 6 p.m. And Mr. Novak will be talking further about that plan. Any other questions for me? I guess later on, I'll probably maybe recommend a special board meeting, perhaps on June 1st. Primarily to discuss the high school principal position. This could be something that could be on the agenda for that night as well. if the board so chooses to advertise for the position, you can direct me to do that. But we should still be mindful financially on where, if we're going to bring in a position and fill it, where are we going to capture or reduce some of that funding somewhere? Because it's, unless you want a deficit spend for next year's budget again. So I'll leave it to that unless there's any questions or concerns that anyone has for me.
I do have one question, Jeff. So if you had not had this resignation of Mrs. Hasbargen, what areas would you have been looking at for cutting?
That's a good question. I've always tried to look when we have resignations and we have another administrative one, we would have been looking somewhere. Hopefully not to have to reduce staff. That gets back to where maintaining and protecting your fund balance. But I've been thinking, I think this is a good, the best move we have at this time and moving forward, because we're still able to provide those courses to students. Obviously a different format, but I think we still have that. We're not losing a program. So no, I'm not sure where we would be. It's been a long time since we've had to actually reduce staff. We've tried to do it during attrition with retirements. Our retirements are kind of dwindling too. Now our staff is shifting a little bit. I remember years ago where we had to reduce staff to part-time. If you only had 6 kids in an elective class, we've had teachers that had to teach 5 7s. You know, so I'd like to avoid that as much as possible. And I think making these types of decisions now ahead of the game is the way to avoid that down the road. So I'm not sure if I satisfactorily answered your question, but that's the best answer I have for right now.
All right, are ready to move on then? I guess we can move on to high school principal Brian Novak.
Hi, everybody, again. Just a couple things I want to talk about tonight. First of all, the Senior Scholarship and Academic Awards Night. We're going to have that Wednesday, May 27th, and we're going to have that in the auditorium. And what we're going to do is we're going to set up and use this YouTube Live link here. And we're going to have NHS honors. We're going to have scholarship awards night. So we've got representatives from Dollars for Scholars that will announce scholarship winners. Then I will announce other local scholarship winners as far as the other scholarships the students won. And then we've got Jen Moeller is going to be doing the Math Student of the Year, English, Social Studies, and Science Students of the Year, and Journalism. And then I will go into the academic awards. We'll do academic letters, which are students that have 3.5 or higher. Those, they get the gold star for 7 semesters. And then the others that do 5 semesters in a row, they get the silver stars, and they get academic letters for those. And then we'll also have students of the month. So we'll be honoring all the junior high and all the senior high students of the month, just like we always do in the auditorium. So we're going to do it from the auditorium. We'll have 4 or 5 people, and I'll have Addison working the lights again. And then we'll have pictures of the seniors, and anybody who gets an award, we'll have them up there on the screen. We're going to run an iPad, and it's going to be on YouTube. And we'll have music, we'll have microphones, everybody will hear it. And so that's the plan for Wednesday, May 27th. Any questions on that? So I started sending that out to the students and to the parents yesterday, and then probably early next week or maybe late this weekend, I will send it out to everybody again, just to inform them. When it gets closer to a presentation, you have to just kind of maybe jog a few memories. So, and then graduation. We're still slated for Friday, May 29th at 6 o'clock. We've kind of run the gamut of a lot of different options. You know, we were going to be at the Willy Walla Hill. We were going to be at the football field. Where do we really want to be? We want to be in the school, but that's not an option. We're looking at being in the fire lane and students sitting in front. And I know that Mr. Nelson sent out a couple different options. We're also looking at the possibility of being in the main parking lot and setting up a drive-in style graduation ceremony. So those are just a few different things. And we can set it up on whatever the Board of Education decides for public health and safe distancing and what is fair, what is appropriate for us to set up. So whatever you say tonight, you give us the go ahead, and then tomorrow morning, senior advisors and we're going to meet again. We're going to fine tune the graduation ceremony. And I promised the senior class that they would know tomorrow exactly what the ceremony was going to look like. And I'll take questions.
Has everyone had a chance to look at what the proposal is? Anyone want me to put that up?
Yeah, if you could, Jeff, that would be good.
Okay.
And
I have
also,
read through the
based on what-
amended version, the one that was posted here about an hour or so ago. That's what you're asking?
Yep. So there is a board write-up that I emailed everyone. Kind of given the timeline. The guidance from the state came out on May 8th. I attended on May 14th an MSBA meeting on that document. And it was kind of hilarious because I had just walked in from outside meeting with Mr. Novak and his staff. They said, "This is our plan." I said, "Sounds great." And then I walked into that Zoom meeting and left with, "Oh, we can't do that now." So that's kind of what it's been like here the last, since March. So it's frustrating for everyone. I did talk to Pemberton Law Firm on Saturday, and today I did get a hold of Casey Holland, and I have that attached, and I got some extra pages in there. All right. So basically this isn't the detailed step-by-step what Brian will be presenting as far as graduation, but this is kind of what we'll be looking at. We want people that have any symptoms to not participate and stay home. The biggest thing that we had to take out was having the kids sit outside their vehicle. That was the original plan, was to park in the fire lane, have the kids sit out in front of their car during the ceremony. And that was one of the things that our lawyer just said that they can't support that. After they've looked through the guidance, having people outside their vehicles, that number, they can't support that. Not to say that some districts are choosing to go against the guidance and legal counsel. I mean, the board has that option, but we just open ourselves up to liability. A lot of this is in the guidance as far as not having bathroom facilities available. Car windows, depending on how we arrange the vehicles, whether the windows can be open or shut. It's hard to know if it's going to be 40 degrees or 80 degrees. So I think that's something to consider. And the only time the seniors will be allowed to get out of their vehicle is if they're singing a song. And I think we have 2 students that will be doing that or receiving their diploma. Additional vehicles, depending on how we set it up, we'll have to select a spot for them to park safely. And then providing guidance on what our expectation is for social distancing. I have it labeled there. They added, podiums, tables, that type of thing. We need to make sure we have sanitation stuff out there to clean that up after each presenter. We need to find the microphone covers that are disposable after each speaker. And making sure that all attendees have a written statement on what our expectations are. Law enforcement, they suggest having law enforcement there. And it's really hard, what do you do if someone, they decide to object to that. I'm not sure what you can do with that. I can't physically put people back in the car. That's, why we're a little bit apprehensive of doing this. We have to trust people will follow the guidelines. And then the parade, as far as going through town. And Brian, you have a route for that, or do we know what the route is yet?
Yeah, the parade route will take us down by Badet Motel, and we'll take a left at the arena. And then when they get to the hospital, they will take another left and go up Main Street, just like the normal parade does for 4th of July. And then we're planning on, we actually have a permit to cross Highway 11. And so we'll take everybody across Highway 11 down Main Street, and either at Rex Hotel or at past the movie theater. Then people can go left or right, and the parade will be over, and then they can go home. Because there are some students that are planning on having parties after the ceremony. So can I interject a couple things, Mr. Nelson? Okay.
Yep.
Just a few things. Just to kind of show you what we're looking at doing. And I don't know, you probably can't see this. It's going to be, we're looking at doing a horseshoe shape in the parking lot where you got the vehicles. And we're looking at using a Border State Bank trailer up here, and everybody's going to be spread out. And as far as like microphones, we're going to have 3 microphones set up. The only people talking, we have Destiny Storbeck, who will be speaking on behalf of the class of 2020. So we've got 1 student talking. Mr. Nelson is going, or excuse me, Mr. Kraus is going to introduce her and talk about the others, salutatorians and valedictorian. And then I'm going to do the welcome, and then we've got one group that is going to be singing, and they're probably going to have each a handheld microphone because we want them to be a little further out of the stage. So we will have enough microphones for everybody. So I don't think we're going to have to swap microphone covers. Those are the types of things that we want to do. Just make sure that we can keep this thing going and as smooth as possible. And they also want it as brief as possible too.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Novak. Last thing I have to say on that, one thing that the lawyer did recommend is that I contact our insurance provider. Some districts have exclusionary language for communicable diseases. Fortunately, we don't have that exclusionary in there yet. I would anticipate that will be something forthcoming with insurance companies as that liability increases. So that's all in that late packet. And again, I apologize for sending that out so late, but it's just kind of the nature of the way things have been going right now, as far as trying to stay ahead of guidance and figuring out plans and trying to coordinate everything. So I know Mr. Novak and his staff have worked very hard. And this is something that no one really is joyful or happy about what we have to do. But I think it's our duty to protect our kids and staff and our community. And I really don't want us to be in a position where if something comes into the area that it tracks back to graduation ceremony at Lakely Woods School. That would not be a positive picture for our district. So I know it's very disappointing, but I think we have a duty to our community to protect everyone. So that's my recommendation. And, it's not what I want to do, but it's what I think we should do. But it's really up to the board to make that final decision and direct us on how they would like us to conduct graduation ceremony. So that's part of the motion tonight at the regular board meeting. And that's another unusual thing. Usually the board has given administration leave to put the graduation ceremony together, and Mr. Novak's done a wonderful job of making that a really class act in the past. But with the current situation, I think it's appropriate to have the board give direction on how they want us to do it, especially if it's something different than what we're proposing.
Mr. Nelson, I have to take leave, but I'll be back in about 10 minutes.
Okay. I'll let you in when I see you.
Okay, Jeff, just so I'm clear that during our board meeting, the commencement plan that we would be approving would be the ones that you presented then,
Yes, it's
unless,
yes,
yeah.
the one with keeping the kids in the vehicles, that first page that I presented.
Okay. So I guess before we move on, is there any discussion on that? Or any comments at this point?
I would just like to make a quick comment and say I would like to sometimes celebrate the smallness of our community, and I don't want to sound like the guy who's ignoring this, because I'm not. But I look at that presentation and say, is there room for compromise in terms of if we eliminate, for instance, grandparents in a car? And I understand the logic of that, in a second vehicle. And I think that was one of the more limiting factors in this newest proposal. Can we put, understanding that, can we put kids out? Is that a big deal to kids? And I know Brian's not here to address that because he's the one talking with the kids. But is that something that they're see as a big deal, sitting out in front of their car as opposed to sitting in it? I just don't have a sense of what's really important or not. Do they want grandparents there? Do the grandparents want to be there in a separate car? Is there enough room in the parking lot for it? I'm sure you've covered all those details, but I would like to once again embrace the fact we are a small community and maybe can come up with some compromises for things like that if we knew what was truly the most important facets of this thing.
Well, I think the proposal allows for 2 vehicles per graduate. So and that might be for households where there might be a separation with the parents, to take that into consideration. One thing that we have to do with equity is make sure that all the kids have access to a vehicle to get here. So I don't think that would be a concession. And as far as the kids sitting out, that's coming directly from the guidance and the district lawyer saying that they would not recommend having kids sit out in front of their vehicle because it doesn't go with the guidance. Now the board can choose to go counter to that and allow that, and that would go right back to our original plan. But I just want you to know that the advice I've been given from our legal counsel suggests that we not do that because we open ourselves up to more liability. So it really comes down to what level of risk does the board want to take for the district on this situation? And if you're comfortable having the kids sit out in front of their vehicles, I want you to be clear on understanding what that's a heightened risk for the district and for board members. So it's what are you comfortable with as far as liability?
And for
Yep.
the students and attending.
Okay, Lynn, you're cutting out. Want to try again, Lynn?
It's a risk for anyone who attends.
Is it a risk for anyone who attends? Or it is a risk?
It is. It
Yes.
is.
Yep, if you read through the guidance, their primary recommendation is not to have people come here. But they have made concessions on the second and third page. If the district so chooses, these are the guidelines that you need to follow. So if we choose to have a parking lot ceremony, they have a list of things that we should follow if we want to go against not having anything or doing it totally remotely. So, And what MSBA and the school lawyer is saying is if you go outside even those guidance, then your risk increases and the liability of the district increases with it. And no, I don't know what the risk is, I don't know what the lawsuit would be. I don't know what the potential is. That's unknown. But that's coming from higher grade pay and expertise than from me, so.
Jeff, are a lot of other schools, I mean, every school is in the same situation. Are we hearing anything from our other schools in the area, what they're doing?
Yeah, they're kind of all over the place. Christy Nelson, and I have her number. If we want to call her, we can. They have schools they have a few rare schools that are disregarding their recommendation. And they have that prerogative, but if it comes back to the district that they were a source of the contamination in the area, and someone is extremely harmed from it, suits will probably happen, and the district could be liable if the court deems that they were ignoring the guidance and acting recklessly or intentionally. There's somewhere where I don't know if it's in your oath. I know it's within the superintendent oath, a duty of care. And that's a duty of care for students, staff, and the community when they're on the school property. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I know this is a tough decision. I guess I'm going to recommend what was recommended to me as far as having kids sit out the vehicle. And it's not that I don't want them to. I'm just saying I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't tell you that if you have them do that, you're increasing the district's liability. And it's really up to what your comfort level as a board is for that.
With Brian leaving, it leaves the opportunity that we could just say it was all his idea.
And I don't know if you saw Lynn had typed a question in the chat on if a waiver of liability could be signed by the parents and students. I don't know if you saw that.
Well, I think you can do waivers, but my experience and taught is, you don't reduce your liability if it's deemed that you were negligent in your duties. So a waiver, I'm not sure. That would be a question I can call Christy tonight or tomorrow and find out if that would help. I don't know.
Just the main issue, like you said.
Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, you're muted, Mr. Bertram. There you go.
You got me. The main issue we're talking about mostly right now is whether to have those kids get out of their car and go and get their diploma, and maybe a couple of them going up and sing.
No. The big thing is right now is during the whole ceremony, do we put out a chair and have 41 kids sit out in front of the vehicles?
Okay.
Quite frankly, I think the kids sitting in front of the vehicles would be kind of weird, because chances are everyone's going to have the air conditioning going and the engine's running, and I think it would be kind of odd having 41 kids sitting in front of a running vehicle.
Well, I personally am more comfortable with it. I didn't see that in the fine print there, but that you are allowing for 2 cars per family, which I think is important in terms of extended family and that potential anyway. And at that point, if the recommendation's allowing that, I agree with Boyd in that I would like to see them get out and sit in front of the car. I like the kids. I want to see them, but they're having an opportunity to go up and take their diploma personally anyway. So they will be out of their car at some point and you will get a chance to see them. So like you said, Boyd, if it's raining or if it's really hot, and it's probably going to be one of the two, they're going to be probably wanting to sit there. Now, I don't want to put words in their mouth, and maybe that's not their hope, but I feel better about the fact that there are 2 cars available there.
So I can call and confirm and inquire about getting a waiver, if that would change things or not. Is that appropriate?
my 2 cents worth, I'd say don't bother, but that's my vote, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, my assumption is, Jeff, is that you're right, that they would say that you knowingly went against it anyways. And we had a little discussion on it in the finance committee, and my son happened to walk by. And so I asked him, because a couple of weeks ago he was, or maybe more than a couple of weeks ago, he was very against the parking lot idea, but that's when they had hoped that there would be another alternative. And basically he said that given no other feasible alternative, that the way I described it to him, he said, well, what do we, basically he would go along with that. There's really not a whole lot of other choice. So it's not what they want, but I think at this point they're understanding that we're facing a lot of limitations, basically. And I think they're understanding that. It doesn't mean they like it, but they understand it.
Jeff, can I interject real quick?
Yep.
So we had a meeting, Masmus meeting on Thursday with buildings and grounds directors and supervisors throughout Minnesota. There was 4 schools that had talked. They were going through their graduation right now. 3 of the 4, they had to decided just to do virtual. One of the other schools did the parking lot, but nobody was allowed to be out of their car. The question was asked of Jeff, what are the other schools doing? That's kind of an insight. Maybe that'll help you a little bit.
Thank you. Yeah, I know Badger just did theirs, and they did the drive-in and they kept the kids in the vehicle. Granted, they only graduated 10 kids, so. So that's all I have, unless there's any other questions. But does the board understand what they're approving then? That we'll just keep the kids in the vehicle unless they get out for singing or getting their diploma. And we'll 2 cars per student. And we'll leave it up to Mr. Novak whether he can arrange the vehicles 6 feet apart in a horseshoe and make enough room and allow people to open their windows. If not, they'll have to be closed. And we'll just make the best out of a not so wonderful situation, I guess. And Boyd, if the school gets sued, it's usually the superintendent and school board members that are listed underneath as plaintiffs. So Mr. Novak's off the hook.
Okay, I guess we can move on. And next up would be business office and Crystal Olson. I don't know if she has anything left to present. We had shifted some of that around.
No, I'm good.
Okay, thanks, Crystal. And on to Activities Director Chad Hazelton.
Good evening. Not a whole lot to report. Normally we'd be talking about golf sections and softball sections right now. Track coaches, some of the other coaches are doing some mentoring. They're doing some work at the storage shed at the old concession stand to try and possibly revamp that. They're going to be doing some work on the walleye wagon, giving it a touch up. Weekly meetings with the State High School League, not a lot of new information. With everything else, we're still in a holding pattern. We're hopeful that we'll be able to play something next fall, but there is still a real opportunity that might not happen too. So we just don't know what's going on in the world of athletics right now. Nobody really knows how this virus is going to affect athletics. They'll be taking cues from the NCAA and the professional teams as they attempt to do some reopening this summer. So as far as athletics go, there's not a whole lot to talk about. As far as some of the elementary dean stuff, we're working on MTSS and student engagement. We're still working on the PBIS to try and get that ready to roll out in the fall. So we're being busy, but athletics are kind of on a standstill right now. That's all I got.
Okay, any questions for Chad? Okay, moving on, buildings and grounds, Seth Putz.
I'll start with number one, the staffing update and summer projects. With the stay at the distancing still in place, we're running one person per shift and we're alternating days, but we have them on 8-hour shifts now. They're starting to look at when their basic duties are done, they're moving into some of the summer projects so we can keep moving forward with that. When everything changes, we're looking at bringing everybody back 100% like normal and get going on everything that we can to make sure we have it done by start of next year. Then the next one, football field repair. Jeff, do you have that? There we go. Yeah, Lakes area came out and we did a walk around and looking at what it would take to bring the field back to where it should be. And you could see right there, looking at about 140 yards of dirt, black dirt to fill in from where the mud bowls that have taken place have done some damage on the field. And then to get it recrowned. And that's what we're looking at, about 4,300 right now for that. Still waiting on a quote from Olson Brothers yet. So we're going to check into that and see, but that's just kind of a gist what it's going to take to get the field back and ready for what it is. Any questions on that? Yeah, we'll move forward to the next one. Back in, I don't know, October, November, when the flu season started hitting, kind of concerned me about the absenteeism that was in the school. And I started looking at different options in the systems, air purification, UV lighting, stuff like that, that we could put into our air systems to reduce illness and stuff. And this is one of them that I seen that is about the most reasonable out of all of them. And it doesn't take much to do. Just to give you an idea what we're looking at, their claim is to reduce illness per year by 50% to 60%. You know, and that translates to more students in school. And this is kind of just a rough estimate of what they have. You know, just an idea. This is something, like I said, I've just been looking into, exploring different options and stuff, especially with moving forward now with all the COVID and everything. What are going to be, when school comes back next year, what's going to be required from the schools? You know, it's kind of an unknown, but, you know, take a look at it and see if it's required. At least we got a head start on it, know what to expect. Anybody have any questions on that one? I will make available the link to this site. I forgot to give that one to Jeff so he could get it up and it could be shared. Anybody could go take a look at it and look at the technology that's out there.
Seth, would this fall under long-term facility maintenance with the HVAC? Would it qualify for that?
Yes, it would. One of the other things I might look at too is, you know, down the road, could it be health and safety if it had to come to that? There's quite a few categories that could fall under right now, but
I think the
LT,
100,000 is the minimum for HVAC system, I believe.
okay.
But
Yeah, that's what
you're going to use that anyway for that as well. So.
Yep. Definitely that would fall under LTFM, and that's kind of where I'm looking at.
Okay.
Seth, you mentioned just a little bit about, do you see the state making some things mandatory that's going to cost us some extra money come fall to get in compliance with some of whatever they mandate?
You know, that's really hard to say, Jeff. I mean, it really is a, you know, you got to look into a crystal ball right now because every day some things new, some things change. You know, that's kind of why I'm looking into, you know, I'm kind of trying to stay on top of things, look at different technologies, different things that we could do in case they do, in case these mandates do come out. How can we deal with them when they do happen? And Lynn, you had a question. Let's see. That I'm not sure. Lynn asked the question, is there or will there be any grants available for the school? It's hard to say. That, again, that changes daily too. I know they came out with the CARES Act and I'm not sure exactly what that covers, but that's about the only one that I know of right now. Jeff and Crystal would probably be the ones to ask about that.
The last update, the last MASBO update I had, there was no guidance as far as what they were doing with the funding that schools received from the CARES Act as of yet. That was not last week, but the week before.
Yeah, I don't have much information right now. I haven't had a chance to look into any of that either, so.
Yeah.
But we usually don't have to worry too much about unfunded mandates from the state. That was my inappropriate facetiousness coming out, sorry.
Jeff, what do I have the last thing on the list?
Oh, gym floor update. I'm sorry, I took that down too soon.
Yeah, no, that's fine. The gym floor update for everybody is on track. They came up last week or the week before. I think it was last week at some point. We got together with the athletic department, got everything etched in stone, and everything is on budget, on time. So we're looking at starting as soon as you're looking May 28th. I think June 1st was our start date. And he's still on schedule for that. So everything is really looking up. He's looking at 2 to 3 weeks to have the whole thing done. So with that, does anybody have any questions on anything? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Seth. Okay, next up is Community Ed and Transportation with Brent Cole.
Hi, everyone. Not a whole lot this month. For transportation, we're still delivering food and classroom supplies. We're going to start bringing stuff home or back to the school here these next few weeks, Chromebooks and instruments, stuff like that. One little thing about community ed, they opened up the driver's ed behind the wheel training today, actually. And I talked to Mr. Denault, who's our instructor, and everything is going to be good to go for us to start on June 18th for that. So we should be able to get everyone in this summer as long as something doesn't change for the worse. But that's about all I have. Is there any questions?
So Brent, with bringing the kids back, there's certain regulations and guidelines, I'm sure, as far as number of kids in the vehicle and that type of thing.
Yeah, the sheet that I read pretty much just said you had to have a plan. We're just gonna do with what we've been doing. We're gonna come and check the door. We used to do, he has done 2 students per vehicle. We're just gonna do 1 this summer. And we'll have stuff for disinfecting the vehicles between kids. So. Anything else?
All right, thanks, Brent. And last on the agenda is food service with Stacy Charlton.
Yep. Good evening, everyone. I just have can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Just a couple of things. We have weekly meetings with MDE, Food Nutrition Service, and they keep Jackie and myself kind of updated with what the governor's changes and what requirements are. And it is frustrating for them too, because one week they'll tell us one thing and then it changes. So we meet, we have webinars every Tuesday. And in the month of May, so far, we've had 12 serving days, and Jackie and her gals have served 5,751 meals. And that's all I have.
So if I can add just a few sentences here, as far as the summer food program, in the past, we have ran that program to coincide with our targeted services or our freshwater summer camp. It looks like summer camp is probably not going to be a viable option this year. So we're not sure about the summer foods program. It would not be feasible for us to continue delivering the meals on a daily basis as we have right now. Our option would probably have to be a pickup site, which would require parents to drive to the school, or if we had other locations to pick up the meals. At the beginning, back in March, when we had the school as a pickup site, I think we had 3 bags picked up the whole time that we offered it. So in the past, it hasn't been really a viable option. We don't get a lot of people coming out to the building to pick it up. So we're kind of looking at maybe not providing the summer food program this summer. Any thoughts on that from the board? It's hard to know if people would drive into the school or into a location to pick up meals on a daily basis.
Can I add one more thing?
Sure.
One of the things that was brought up in one of the webinars is the Minnesota Department of Health is working together with the state, and on the EBT cards, they're thinking of adding another $5.70 to the cards, which would make, that would cover for their breakfast and lunch along with the other, with the money that they also receive. They're also trying to get more families to apply for the SNAP programs, and I think there'll be more families doing that too. So that might help out a lot too.
So as far as the state's concerned, I mean, it's up to the district whether they want to run a summer food program. I'll probably recommend that we don't. The trade-off on that would be what Cece just shared with that information. I think the school would be a hub for making sure that we send out a letter informing parents about it, putting it on our website so that people can take advantage of what programming is available out there. So that's kind of our plan moving forward.
Does the backpack program continue to function?
I'm sorry?
Does backpack continue to function through all this?
Traditionally, no. I'm going to take inventory this week. We'll finish out the year. Off the top of my head, I don't remember how many households we delivered to, but whatever's left over, we're going to bag up, and we'll continue to do that until we run out of inventory. So, but usually in the summer, that program doesn't continue. But I can tell you at the next board meeting kind of where we're at with inventory and how long I can keep doing that. But that might be more of a volunteer, or I'll just have to run it out to the different houses. I think it's like maybe 30 households right now that get the weekend packages.
If there's a question as to whether or not getting any questions about summer food at all.
I don't know if that was for me or what, but I didn't hear the question.
I'll interject. Corinne, we're having a hard time with your audio. It says, there's a question, are you getting any questions about summer food at all?
I haven't been, and they're still going back and forth on the webinars with whether the schools are going to be, so far, the schools aren't supposedly going to be required by the governor to do it, so.
But that can change too, so.
Yes, that's what we find out.
In childcare, I can give you a quick update. I know that's not on the agenda and this is getting to be a late meeting, but it's probably something I should bring up. Right now, we have 2 families that are tier 1, and those are essential employees. Tier 2, all of our tier 2 families have been employees of the school district. My understanding is that we're not required to provide it free as we have during the school year. We could charge, but most of the schools that are continuing on with that already have an existing childcare center in place. We do not. And we have staffing issues and stuff like that off contract over the summer. So I'm recommending that we not continue it. And we'll have to be creative for our staff members that need to report to work that have kids. And I'm not sure what the answer is right now, but so that's kind of where that's at right now. Usually we have anywhere, depending on the day, 4 to 8 kids, some days 9 kids. But steadily the tier 1 kids that are not employees, there's like 4 kids, 2 families that have consistently been here for childcare services.
Okay. Anything else on the working session?
I just have one more thing I'd like to add, and it's just a shout out to a couple of our former athletes. Alcia Draper and Sid Huffnagel at their respective colleges were both voted freshman of the year for freshman athletes. So just a little shout out to a couple former athletes from the school here.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. Good news. Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, then I think we will adjourn the working session and move on to the regular board meeting. Oh, there is a question that just popped up from Lynn. Do you see that, Jeff?
Yes. Do we have to continue those services, childcare for tier 1 employees in the summer? At this time, no. Not for free. Before we had to provide it because the state was sending school funding. And that's where we use some of our staff, support staff to provide childcare. Once the school year is over and their contract ends, we do not have to provide it. We can provide it and we can charge a fee.
Okay. Now we can adjourn. And Jeff, you're pulling up the agenda, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do we want to add a special meeting or work session to cover some of the budget and staffing discussion that we kind of talked about tonight? Or does that need to be added?
I can't edit the document when it's up there, but I can add it to my notes.
Yeah.
Is that something the board would like to do, to discuss high school principal or any of those positions? Spanish, online, English. Thoughts on that?
Yes, I would like that. And I think that it'd be nice to do it before the 1st of June. Does that make any sense to anybody else?
Is there a reason for that, Tim?
I just think that, like Jeff suggested, the sooner we get on the discussion about what we want to do in terms of principal, the better off we're going to be.
Okay.
I'm willing to accept a June 1st date. I just think that we're looking at a window now and it continues to shrink with what the delays, and things happen in June, and June 1st date just, I think is going to be a notorious date, or a date that I think things again will be suggested change in the state. So I don't know. I mean, maybe it interferes with our ability to meet.
I'll throw out Thursday, the 28th at 6 o'clock. Does that work?
That's a yes from Tim Lyon.
Yes, from Corinne.
Yes, from Boyd.
Yes,
Yep,
from
I can,
Lynn.
I'm sorry, you said 6 PM on the 28th?
Yes.
That sounds good for Birch.
Okay, and I will look into whether we're allowed to have some kind of having the board on site. If you want me to look into that, and what we would have to do to bring everyone into the building, or would you prefer a Zoom meeting?
I like the Zoom.
Okay,
I'm okay with the Zoom. We seem to be getting a little better at it.
okay. Does everyone know?
Lynn says in person. This is Corinne. I would like to try in person, just for conversation. Yep. We could possibly do a combination, though.
I'm open to either or, in person or Zoom.
I'm
Yep.
the same.
Yep, I'm open to combination or whatever you want to do.
Okay, I will get with the board chair and we'll set the format for the meeting. How's that sound? So I'll add it. It's on our agenda. It will be on the agenda. It's in the crib. I put it on the crib sheet. So the last item for the board will be a motion and a second to set a special board meeting for Thursday, May 28th at 6 PM. And that'll be under new business, probably item C now, or B or something.
Okay. All right. So I think I already called the meeting to order, but if not, we'll do it again. And this is the time we normally say the Pledge of Allegiance, but I think we'll just skip that for this evening. So I would like a motion to approve the agenda with the following corrections. The addition of resignations, Brian Novak, high school principal, removal of 10-year LTFM plan, and also the addition of adding a special board meeting under new business for Thursday, May 28th at 6 PM.
Tim Lyon would make a motion to approve the agenda and with amendments or with emendations made.
Bertram will second it.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, I'll call for a vote.
She said Ellis.
I, did you hear that?
Yes, you said I.
Okay.
Okay, I think I heard a yes. Johnson,
Aye.
Trask, aye. Sonstergaard,
Aye.
Lyon,
Aye.
Bertram.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes, approval of invoices and statements, personnel, resignations, retirements, and appointments. Brian Novak, high school principal, resignation.
Johnson
Motion
makes
by
the motion.
Lyon.
Okay, I got Johnson for the motion.
Second to Lyon.
Okay. Tim for a second. Any discussion?
We talked briefly about it before, but Brian Novak has been a fixture for my children and for my time on the board. And I appreciate that when somebody wants to spend that much of their time doing that good a job for that many years. It just adds up to a good school experience. So thank you and good luck on where you're going.
Thank you.
I did with that, Brian. Thank you. You've done a great job.
Thank you. It's going to be a change.
Thank you, Brian.
Brian, is that a principal job down there? I didn't get that.
Yes, it is. It's a high school principal job in Brandon, Evansville. So
All right, good luck.
thank you.
Are you gonna hold on to your place up here, or you're gonna sell it and
We're gone.
you're gone? All right, good luck.
Yep. That's part of the reason we don't have any family up here. So we're going to kind of move ourselves down south. So I just want to, I've been here 29 years. I just want to take this opportunity to thank Superintendent Nelson and thank the Board of Education for doing all the different things and providing me the opportunity to grow within the school district. So thank you.
Just think, you won't have to drive 2 hours to go to Walmart.
Yeah, it'll be 12 minutes to Alex.
Brian, I saw on your list of, or your resume on your letter, and I appreciate that. It's all the things you've done, and you have worn just about any hat that we've had here at the school. But I guess I wasn't aware of the fact you were the musical director in several plays. You have some musical talent.
I have musical talent in directing. I don't have much musical talent. So I just enjoy working with the youth, and there are some musicals that I participated in high school, and the Fantastics. I did that in college, and we did Of Thee I Sing and Finian's Rainbow in high school, and there was a need, and we had a group of students, and we did some pretty big musicals there. So it was a lot of fun.
Well, you've added a dimension to my knowledge of you that I wasn't aware of. So maybe I get a chance to see you sing, dance, or produce in the future.
Well, thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, Brian. And I guess at this time, we've got a motion and a second. So if there's no more discussion, I'll call for a vote. Ellis?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Trask? Aye. Sonstergaard?
Aye.
Lyon?
Aye.
Bertram?
Aye.
Motion passes. On to board presenters. I don't believe we have any.
Nope.
Okay. Written communications, none.
Mm.
All right. So now we're at old business. I'm looking for a motion to approve the third reading and adoption of policy 524, internet acceptable use and safety.
Johnson will make the motion.
Second by Lyon.
Okay, any discussion? All right, hearing none, call for a vote. Ellis,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Trask, aye. Sondergaard,
Aye.
Lyon,
Aye.
Bertram.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Next is new business. Looking for a motion to approve the revised fiscal year 20 budget.
I'll make a motion.
Second by Johnson.
By Robin, second by Johnson. Any discussion? Okay, no discussion. I'll call for a vote. Ellis,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Trask, aye. Sondergaard,
Aye.
Lyon,
Aye.
Bertram.
Aye.
Next, looking for a motion to approve the proposed graduation commencement plans for May 29th, 2020.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Bertram.
Second by Lyon.
Okay. Any discussion?
Mr. Novak, do we need a couple board members to attend? Are we still gonna have two of them with the diplomas?
Well, the plan had changed a little bit when we were gonna have everybody in the fire lane, and then we were gonna actually have and spread out the way we handed out diplomas. So if we do the diplomas in the middle and actually alternate one group coming in and another group on the other side, we really only need one.
Okay, another option too is if there's more than one board member that would like to be present and participate, we can do social distancing.
Absolutely.
Have designated spots and you can step up, and I'm not sure how we're gonna set out the diplomas and stuff like that. Anyone up there presenting would have a face mask on. You probably have to have gloves on for handling the diploma. And then when you're done, there'd be a certain spot for you to stand in and to maintain that social distancing. So if there's board members that want to be present for that, I think as long as we stay within our guidelines, I think it'd be okay. And if there's only one or two people, we'll make adjustments. And if there's no one, so. And you can let us know tonight, or you can email me what your feelings are.
Okay. So I think if anybody's interested, Lynn says she won't be able to attend, but otherwise we can send Jeff an email. If that works.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Nelson, what I will do for tomorrow is I will meet with my advisors, and then I will have a written sheet exactly what's going to happen and the ceremony procedure, and then I'll get that to you and get your approval on it, and then you can share that with the Board of Education.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Okay, I'm going to call for a vote. Ellis,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Trask, aye. Sondergaard,
Aye.
Lyon,
Aye.
and Bertram.
Aye.
Motion passes. And now on to looking for a motion to approve the holding a special board meeting on Thursday, May 28th at 6 p.m.
Johnson will make the motion.
Second by Lyon.
Any discussion? And Jeff, just a rough agenda would be to discuss the recent resignations and in relationship to the budget and looking at staffing for next year.
Okay.
Okay. Great. If there's no more discussion, I'll call for a vote. Ellis?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
Trask? Aye. Sonstgaard?
Aye.
Lyon?
Aye.
Bertram?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Any other business at this time? No, if not, I guess we'll adjourn the meeting at 8:09 p.m.
Thanks, Corinne.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.